Are under attack. But at the same time, we have real opportunity here in Wisconsin to build a state where everyone has the opportunity to thrive.
This week on For the Record, familiar faces in Madison entering the race for Wisconsin's next governor.
This is where we need a working class person to build working class power.
We sit down with State Senator Kelda Roys and State Representative Francesca Hong as they each make their first pitch to voters.
I've just seen so much divide within our community and within our village board.
Plus new leadership in the village of DeForest, how it stems from fluoride in the drinking water.
If a vote is not counted, if a vote is interfered with, that comes with a cost.
And after 193 absentee ballots went uncounted in the November election, what a class action lawsuit against the city of Madison is hoping to achieve. Plus, the State of Education address, what challenges continue to plague Wisconsin's public schools. That's all coming up.
We now present For the Record.
Welcome to For the Record. I'm Elly Laliberte. Well, the Democratic primary field for Wisconsin's next governor is just continuing to grow, and two of the latest candidates in the race may be familiar faces for many Madisonians. State Senator Kelda Roys announced her campaign on Monday, and State Representative Francesca Hong announced on Wednesday. I spoke with both of them this week, but we'll start out with Senator Roys. Let's first take a look at her campaign video.
Wisconsin, we're in the fight of our lives for our democracy and our kids' future. But I've been in this fight before. When Scott Walker attacked Wisconsin workers, I was there. Now, as extremists attack our freedoms while families struggle to get by, we're fighting back together.
Now, this race is nothing new to Senator Roys. She previously ran for governor in 2018. Before that, she served in the state assembly from 2009 to 2013. She then opened a small business after the term and in 2021 was elected to her current seat representing Madison in the state Senate. But now she's focusing part of her campaign on lifting up the middle class.
We need to be funding our public schools. We need to be expanding access to health care for people, especially at a time when health care options are disappearing and the costs are skyrocketing. We also need to look at housing costs, right? There's a lot that we need to do to help Wisconsinites thrive and make ends meet, and that's what I'm basing my campaign on.
But that's not the only reason she says she's getting into the race. You heard her just moments ago in that campaign ad attack President Trump and Elon Musk when announcing her candidacy. She says she's especially concerned about the tariffs and the impact they could have on Wisconsinites.
Families need a governor who is going to stand up and protect them from the harms and the high costs and chaos and corruption of the Republican administration in Washington. States are under attack. But at the same time, we have real opportunity here in Wisconsin to build a state where everyone has the opportunity to thrive.
Now, we also discussed political violence following the assassination of conservative political activist Charlie Kirk last week. Here's what Roys has to say about that.
It's unacceptable, and every political leader needs to speak out clearly against that. We had the assassination of a Democratic lawmaker and her husband, and others were shot. I don't think that any political leader should be trying to manipulate the public into saying that this is a both sides problem.
In Madison, as we mentioned, proving to be well represented in the Democratic primary for governor, State Representative Francesca Hong also throwing her name in the ring as what she's calling a wild card.
We can fix a rigged system that puts oligarchs over workers and small businesses. We can do better. Don't let anyone tell you we can't do this. We can build a Wisconsin where we share the table. I'm Francesca Hong, and I'm running for governor because I know that together we make better possible.
In 2020, Representative Hong was the first Asian American elected to the Wisconsin state legislature. She's also just one of 4 state legislators who are currently in the Socialist Caucus. And we asked her how she thinks that will impact her campaign.
Regardless of political identity, I care about people who care about their community too. And it's going to take bold solutions and policies that guarantee universal child care, guarantee paid leave, fully fund our public schools, healthy school meals for all of our kids.
Now, Hong, as a single mom and bartender, champions herself as the candidate for working Wisconsinites.
This is a moment where we need a movement. And being a community organizer, knowing what it's like to work in restaurants and juggle multiple jobs, being a single mom and trying to make sure that I can, afford my rent, this is where we need a working class person to build working class power.
And just like Roy's, we asked Representative Hong about political violence and safety for her campaign.
While there is always going to be concern around safety, I think we have to meet fear with moral courage. And the more folks who are choosing courage to combat fear, I think we're going to it'll be easier to keep each other safe.
Now, this is the first time in roughly 15 years that the race for governor is open with no incumbent running. So let's take a look at who else is already announced. In the Democratic primary are Lieutenant Governor Sarah Rodriguez, Milwaukee County Executive David Crowley, and beer vendor Ryan Sternad. Then on the other side of the ticket are Washington County Executive Josh Schoeman and Milwaukee businessman Bill Berrien. The official primary for the gubernatorial race is scheduled for Tuesday of August 11th, that of next year. And now to an update a story we first brought you last week. The 22-year-old accused of shooting and killing conservative activist Charlie Kirk made his first court appearance virtually from jail on Tuesday. He's accused of aggravated murder, a charge that could bring a death sentence. Now, the fallout from Kirk's death still making headlines. Jimmy Kimmel was indefinitely suspended from ABC this week over comments he made about Kirk's death. But controversy over responses over the assassination of Kirk aren't limited to just national figures. Here in Wisconsin, Eau Claire city officials catching heat from Congressman Derek Van Orden over comments made about Kirk. In response, Van Orden is working on legislation that would prohibit federal funding from entities that employ people who, quote, condone and celebrate political violence and domestic terrorism.
If they have people in leadership that are saying this stuff in public, what are they saying in private? How will they skew the funds to help people who share their political beliefs if they're willing to mock the assassination of a conservative?
And U.S. Representative Mark Pocan responding to Van Orden's proposal, calling it in part an infringement on free speech.
You can say stupid things. That's one of the maybe great things of this country, but you have the right to have that speech. No one should ever be hurt or killed because of that speech, but you also shouldn't lose your job or threaten funding.
The city of Eau Claire is also saying in a statement, quote, Congressman Van Orden has been an important partner in securing federal aid for our region, adding later that, quote, we hope and expect that federal funding will not be impacted. And Law Forward has filed a class action lawsuit on behalf of 193 voters whose ballots went uncounted in the November 2024 election. And in short, that lawsuit is looking for money. Now, the missing ballots would not have changed the outcome of any race, but Law Forward argues this lawsuit will set an example.
What is the price of a vote? That's the question Law Forward President Jeff Mandel is asking.
If a vote is not counted, if a vote is interfered with, that comes with a cost.
Mandel says the law firm is filing this class action lawsuit against the city on behalf of 193 voters whose absentee ballots went uncounted in the November 2024 election. In March, the firm filed a notice of claim that identified damages at $175,000. But the suit filed Wednesday will have a jury decide that actual dollar amount.
These are people who took the time, made the effort, did everything right, and submitted absentee ballots, and through no fault of their own, the city of Madison failed to count their votes.
Now, the lawsuit's 8 plaintiffs claim officials failed to take action to have their votes counted, citing an investigation from the Wisconsin Elections Commission.
One of the things that I believe in very strongly is the importance of maintaining the integrity of our elections.
The WEC chair, Ann Jacobs, says when some of the missing ballots were discovered, there was still time to have the votes counted. But instead, the former clerk went on vacation the next day.
So what we found is that there was no leadership, no urgency, no concern about these ballots being found.
In response, the acting Madison clerk, Michael Haas, says the city is working to rebuild trust with voters, saying, quote, the city has made significant changes to the way it processes absentee ballots and strengthened its documentation protocols, adding later, quote, we are confident that what happened in November 2024 will not be repeated.
This is a deeply unfortunate incident, but was a series of compounding errors, and we expect that we will be successful.
And next on For the Record, the village of DeForest held a special election this week. How it all began from fluoride in the drinking water.
The people of DeForest will stand up for themselves and say, enough already. We want to be heard. We want to be respected.
That was Jane Cahill-Wolfgram, village president in DeForest, speaking about the special election that took place in the village this week. A special election that came out of plenty of controversy. A village divided over the issue of fluoride in the community drinking water, and a trustee being recalled from his seat earlier this summer after allegations of misconduct. Now, reporter Maddie Heimsch has been following this story for months now for us, and she joins us here now on For the Record. Thanks for being here, Maddie.
Thanks, Elly.
So let's start from the beginning. It starts with fluoride, correct?
Starts with fluoride, yes. So back in February, the Village of DeForest Board voted 4-3 to remove fluoride from the drinking water, like you mentioned. Now, this was an issue that caught a lot of residents off guard, they said. They said they felt like they wanted more say in the matter, a lot of them even asking to go to referendum. But eventually the board did take that vote, and Bill Landgraf, the trustee we saw ousted, he was one of the most vocal voices voting to remove it from the water in that 4-3 vote. He was one of the 4 that successfully voted. But it wasn't exactly the fluoride vote, this is according to his critics, that led to the recall. I'm going to let you listen to Mark Stork here. He's the spokesperson for the Recall Bill Landgraf movement. He explains some of the behaviors that led residents to want to take that recall into action.
We found over 40 different issues, harassment or stalking. We had other occasions where he had interacted with people inappropriately. It just began to be obvious to me, and then from talking to others, they also, that we demand more from our village representation.
So obviously described there a lot more than just those fluoride issues. So this all kind of led to that overall recall effort.
Exactly. So Stork, who we just heard from there, and a group of residents decided to take some action due to those actions by Landgraf that kind of had to do with the fluoride vote, but they said just crossed a line kind of further than village politics. So to organize a recall in DeForest specifically, due to the number of voters that live there, you need just under 1,400 signatures. Well, they went out and got more than 1,500. So they got those signatures, they took them to the village board, which then certified the recall, triggering the special election that we saw this week. And the recall movement then backed one specific candidate, Alicia Williams, going up against Landgraf. She really spoke publicly about his behaviors as well, honing in on her belief that residents should be able to take a stand against their village board members, speak out at public comment during meetings without fear of being retaliated against. So here's what she has to say about what she wanted to see in the village.
We want to be able to talk in a civil manner. And so as things are getting politically hot in America, I think we so very much don't want that. We still want a level of civil political discourse when it comes to our small community.
So obviously, next question here, how did this election go?
Well, Williams, who we just heard from there, she won with almost 80% of the vote. And obviously, this is a local special election, so you don't expect a ton of turnout. I was outside Village Hall all day during that special election, and there was a steady stream of voters going in and out. DeForest residents really turned out for this special election, and there were 3 candidates, so Landgraf looking to reclaim his seat, Williams, who we just heard from, and another challenger. So Landgraf got just over 10% of the vote, that other challenger just over 10% as well, and Williams holding on to almost 80%. So I'm going to let you hear from her one more time on what she's now hoping to bring to that seat.
So I am hoping to raise the standards and, again, just go off the momentum of what people want. They want their voices heard, and they want to be heard in a respectful manner without fear of reproach from those who are standing on the board.
So, Maddie, how does this all come back to that first original issue of fluoride?
Well, that's the big question for people who live in the village. So Jane Cahill-Wolfgram, the village president, who we heard from a little bit earlier, and then Williams there, they both indicated to me that they would be willing to bring the issue of fluoride back to the board. That's something that I also talked with Landgraf about a couple months ago in an interview, and he really indicated that he just thought everyone needed to move on from the issue and come back together as a village. But now with Williams in his seat, it definitely could be something brought back to the table.
So something to keep our eyes on.
Certainly.
Well, thank you, Maddie. We appreciate your time.
Thank you, Elly.
And now to the Madison City government. The Common Council was one vote short of extending the Dairy Drive homeless encampment contract after a late night vote. The tiny homes on Dairy Drive served as housing in November of 2021. The property, which provides on-site mental health, medical, and social support, costs between $60,000 and $70,000 to maintain. Now occupants will have to leave by next Friday. And council meeting, Madison Metro bus drivers officially are no longer working without a contract. After 9 months of negotiations, a new contract between the city and the union representing the Metro employees will increase pay and safety measures. This after many drivers refused to work overtime in January, disrupting and delaying routes. And several drivers were also attacked on the job earlier this year. And next on For the Record, our reporter Armand Rahman sits down one-on-one with the Madison Area Technical College's new president. Welcome back to For the Record. State Superintendent Dr. Jill Underly delivered her State of Education address on Thursday, putting a spotlight on the achievements and challenges facing the state's public education system. Dr. Underly highlighted record high graduation rates and expanded opportunities in STEM, career, and technical education. However, she did point to increasing threats to school stability, including a lack of funding leading to teachers leaving the profession.
When we ignore, we lose talent. 4 out of every 10 new teachers leaves Wisconsin or the profession entirely within just a few years. Behind those numbers are real people, teachers who had the passion, the skill, the dedication to make a difference, and yet they were forced to step away from a profession they trained for and loved.
And Madison Area Technical College has a new president as of July. Armand Rahman sat down one-on-one with Dr. Jennifer Burney, the new campus's construction and remodeling building, to see how she's building her profession from the ground up.
Well, first off, thank you so much for sitting down with me, taking the time with me today. I appreciate it. Tell me, how do you like Madison so far as you've been here since about a month or two now?
I do like to move, and I do like to move outside. So it is. I also, the lakes are, I didn't realize how thin an isthmus it was. So to have both lakes and to be able to see both lakes within, a minute of each other in the car, or 5 minutes when you're on foot, is really special.
Tell me a little bit about, the space that we're in right now. You really seemed excited about this when we were kind of coordinating the space. Tell me a little bit about it and, what really excites you about it.
Yeah, so this is our new construction and remodeling space. And I think it's resonant because there's so much growth in Madison.
Is this kind of not only resonate, like you said, with, I guess, the mission of MATC, but also kind of with your own, beginnings here, kind of literally starting from the ground up?
Yeah, well, that's well said, and it is sort of a good symbol of that. We take as raw as people want to come to us, and we are so happy to have them.
And Dr. Jennifer Byrne doesn't seem afraid to get up close to the raw work her students are doing.
She stopped at our school meetings to get into the trenches with them, put on a welding jacket with our welding. Come on in here and grab a tool belt and hammer some nails together.
That's because her foundations are rooted in higher education, teaching, serving as a dean, and most recently a provost at community colleges across the Midwest.
I think what people may not fully understand about community colleges is that we do some of our programming. We're the only ones who can do it. Students tend to be a little bit older. More than 40% of our students are parents. So I'm excited. We have a brand new student services area that just opened also this fall. And the idea is that when students need support, when they need counseling support, when they need support for learning challenges, when they need support for financial aid, we have a closet if they need support for business clothes so that they can do an interview.
What do you think is going to differ from maybe your predecessor from Jack Daniels's time here from 11 and a half years?
To make sure that we're always inclusive and always welcoming. And that's not a shift from what he was doing, but I really take it as a personal goal to continue that, accelerate it, and make sure that we remain relevant and important to the community. I am doing 100 conversations and making myself available to go to people's spaces around all of the campuses and see what their work is like and listen really carefully to their experiences so that I can understand how to best support them. We expect our students to go back and become the caretakers of us and do our taxes and remodel our homes and fix our cars and clean our teeth. We need to care for them.
That was reporter Arman Rahman sitting down with MATC's new president. For the record, we'll be right back. Back. And before we let you go, this Tuesday was National Voter Registration Day. The City of Madison's clerk's office partnered with the Public Library, UW-Madison, and the Urban League to get people registered to vote. Now, the events also recruited poll workers and helped answer voter questions. Now, this is ahead of the Wisconsin gubernatorial race, which we were talking about a lot this show, and the midterm elections in 2026. And a reminder, you can find each and every show posted on our website, channel3000.com. Thank you so much for joining us this week. We see you right here back next to Sunday. For the record, I'm Elly Laliberte.
This has been For the Record.